When fate decided to shake Marcus Davidson's carefully ordered world, it arrived wearing a waitress uniform and his dead wife's face. The truth that would unfold from that moment would change not just his life, but challenge everything he thought he knew about love, loss, and the secrets we keep. The restaurant buzzed with the gentle hum of evening conversation, crystal chandeliers casting a warm golden glow across white linen tablecloths. Marcus sat at his corner table, his back to the floor-to-ceiling windows where lightning occasionally illuminated the Manhattan skyline. His business partner's voice had become white noise, words about market strategies and expansion plans blending into the ambient sounds of clinking glasses and soft piano music. 20 years of success, of building walls around his heart, of turning grief into empire. And still, the bourbon in his glass tasted like memories. Memories of Rebecca, of rain-soaked hospital corridors, of promises left unfinished. "Sir, may I take your order?" The voice was soft but clear, cutting through his thoughts like a blade. Marcus looked up, and the world stopped spinning. The bourbon glass slipped from his fingers, catching the edge of the table before toppling, amber liquid seeping into pristine white cloth. But he barely noticed. His heart had forgotten how to beat, his lungs how to draw breath. Standing before him was a ghost. The young waitress couldn't have been more than 18, but her face, it was Rebecca's face, down to the smallest detail. The same wavy dark hair cascading over her shoulders, the same delicate features, the gentle curve of her lips, the slightly upturned nose. But it was her eyes that shattered his composure, deep, expressive hazel eyes that had once looked at him with so much love. The same eyes he had watched close forever in that sterile hospital room. "Sir, are you all right?" Concern colored her voice, and even that echoed Rebecca's gentle tone. Marcus realized he was staring. He forced himself to breathe, to swallow past the tightness in his throat. The restaurant's ambient noise had become deafening. Laughter, clinking glasses, background music. But nothing could drown out the thundering of his heart. "What's your name?" he managed, his voice barely above a whisper. The young woman hesitated, shifting uncomfortably under his intense gaze. "Emma. Emma Mitchell." She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, just like Rebecca used to do. Marcus's world tilted on its axis. It wasn't possible. Rebecca had been gone for nearly 2 decades, and yet here stood this girl, this perfect mirror image of his lost love. But as he studied her face, questions began forming in his mind. Questions that would lead him down a path he never expected. Because Emma Mitchell wasn't just a coincidence or a cruel trick of fate. She was about to become the key to unlocking a truth that had been buried for 18 years. A truth that would force Marcus to confront not just his past, but the biggest secret Rebecca had taken to her grave. Marcus left the restaurant in a daze, barely registering the rain that now poured from the night sky. His Italian suit was soaked within seconds as he stood motionless on the sidewalk, gripping the cold stone railing outside. The city lights blurred around him as memories crashed through the carefully constructed walls of his mind. Rebecca, in her ivory silk dress, twirling under these same city lights. Her laugh echoing through their penthouse, the way she'd press her palm against his heart when he was stressed. Her silent way of saying, "I'm here." But most haunting now was their final conversation, words that suddenly carried new weight. "There are things you don't know, Marcus," she had whispered in the hospital, her voice growing fainter. "Things I should have told you. Promise me you'll understand when—" But death had stolen the rest of her secrets. Inside the restaurant, Emma Mitchell's hands trembled slightly as she cleared the corner table. The bourbon stain on the white tablecloth seemed to mock her, a reminder of the strange moment that had just transpired. The way Marcus Davidson had looked at her, like he'd seen a ghost, had shaken something loose inside her, a question she'd buried long ago. "Emma?" Her manager's voice startled her. "Everything okay? That customer, Mr. Davidson, he's one of our most prominent regulars. Is there a problem?" Davidson. The name sparked something in her memory, a fragment of a document she'd seen years ago in the adoption papers she kept hidden under her bed. "I'm fine," she assured her manager, though her voice betrayed her. "He just reminded me of someone." Later that night, in his Upper East Side penthouse, Marcus sat in his dimly lit study. The bourbon bottle remained sealed. He needed clarity tonight. His laptop screen cast a soft blue glow as he typed Emma Mitchell into the search bar. He hesitated, knowing this crossed a line, but the questions burning in his mind wouldn't let him rest. The initial results showed little: a private Instagram account, a mention in a local paper about academic achievements. But it was her age that caught his attention. 18 years old. He opened his safe, pulling out a worn leather journal he hadn't touched in years. Rebecca's diary. His hands shook as he turned to the final entries dated just before her death. The last page was tear-stained, the ink slightly smudged. "My dearest Marcus, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. There's something you need to know, something I've kept from you. I pray someday you'll understand why." The rest of the page was blank. Across town, Emma unlocked the door to her modest apartment, exhaustion weighing heavy on her shoulders. Her younger brother Noah was already asleep on the couch, textbooks scattered around him. She smiled softly, draping a blanket over him before retreating to her room. The shoebox beneath her bed seemed to call to her tonight. Inside were the few items she had from her birth parents, or rather, the lack thereof. A blank birth certificate, adoption papers with missing information, and a single photograph of a woman whose face she had never known, its edges worn from constant handling. Emma had always told herself she didn't need to know where she came from. Her adoptive parents had given her everything: love, stability, a brother she adored. But tonight, Marcus Davidson's haunted gaze had awakened something inside her, a question that refused to stay buried. Who was she really? In his study, Marcus made a decision. He reached for his phone, dialing a number he hadn't used in years. "James? It's Marcus Davidson. I need your services again, and your discretion." He paused, staring at Rebecca's diary. "I need you to look into someone's background. And James, this stays between us." As he hung up, thunder rolled across the Manhattan sky. The storm outside was finally breaking, but Marcus knew this was just the beginning, because somewhere in the connection between him and Emma Mitchell lay a truth that would change everything. And as he stared at Rebecca's final words, he couldn't shake the feeling that his late wife had taken more than just memories to her grave. She had taken secrets that were about to surface, secrets that would bind together 3 lives in ways none of them could have imagined. 3 days later, Marcus sat in the same corner table, his heart pounding as he read through the private investigator's preliminary report on his phone. Each detail aligned with devastating precision. Emma Mitchell, born March 15, 2005, exactly 3 months after Rebecca's death. Birth records, sealed. Biological parents, unknown. Adoption finalized through a private agency that had mysteriously closed its doors a decade ago. But it was the final detail that made his blood run cold. Emma had been born in Mount Sinai Hospital, the same hospital where Rebecca had spent her final days. He watched her now, moving between tables with a grace that echoed Rebecca's. Yet there was something uniquely Emma about her too, a quiet strength in the way she carried herself, a resilience that showed in her gentle interactions with difficult customers and the way she subtly slipped extra bread to elderly diners. When she approached his table, her smile was polite but guarded. "Mr. Davidson, you're back." "Emma." He gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Would you sit with me, just for a moment?" She glanced at the half-empty restaurant, then slowly sank into the chair. "If this is about the bourbon from the other night—" "It's not," he cut in softly. "This is about something else entirely." He drew a deep breath. "What do you know about your birth parents?" The color drained from Emma's face. She started to rise, but Marcus's next words rooted her to the spot. "Please, I think Rebecca, my wife, might have known them." Emma's hands trembled as they gripped the edge of the table. How could you possibly know that? Marcus slid his phone across the table, Rebecca's photograph displayed on the screen. Emma's breath caught audibly. The resemblance wasn't just striking, it was almost supernatural. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Is it?" Marcus leaned forward. "You were born 3 months after she died in the same hospital. The timing, your appearance. Emma, there has to be a connection." She shook her head, tears gathering in her eyes. "I can't do this. I have responsibilities, Mr. Davidson. A brother who depends on me for everything since our parents died. I can't get caught up in whatever this is." She stood abruptly. "Please, just leave it alone." But as she turned to leave, Marcus said quietly, "Noah. He's the reason you're working so hard, isn't it? Trying to put him through college while juggling your own pre-med classes?" Emma froze. "How did you?" "I notice things, Emma. The medical textbooks you study during breaks, the way you carefully count your tips, making calculations in that little notebook you keep in your apron. You're carrying both your futures on your shoulders." She turned back slowly, vulnerability flickering across her face. "That's none of your business." "No, it's not," he agreed, "but I want to help." "Why?" Her voice cracked. "Because I look like her? Because you think I'm some kind of, what, second chance at redemption?" Marcus stood, closing the distance between them. "Because whether or not we figure out this connection, you deserve a chance at the future you're working so hard for." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I don't need your charity, Mr. Davidson." "It's not charity," he said softly. "Consider it an investment in both our futures." The next week unfolded like a dream, or perhaps a storm. James's investigation dug deeper, uncovering fragments of a story that seemed impossible. Rebecca had been keeping secrets in those final months. Frequent visits to a fertility specialist, mysterious phone calls, meetings with lawyers that Marcus had never known about. Marcus spent every evening at the restaurant, slowly building trust with Emma. He learned about her dreams of becoming a pediatric surgeon, her fierce devotion to Noah, the weight of responsibility she'd carried since their adoptive parents' car accident 2 years ago. And with each conversation, the line between past and present began to blur. One rainy evening, as Emma was closing up, she finally asked the question that had been haunting her. What was she like, Rebecca? Marcus's throat tightened. She was light, pure light. She could walk into a room and make everyone feel seen, understood. But she also carried this sadness sometimes, like she knew something the rest of us didn't. Emma absorbed this, methodically wiping down tables. "And you loved her?" "With everything I had." Marcus paused, watching the rain streak down the windows. "Which is why her secrets hurt so much." Emma's hands stilled on the table. Do you think I'm one of those secrets?" Before Marcus could answer, his phone buzzed with a message from James that changed everything. "Found sealed records. Rebecca had a twin sister. Medical records from Mount Sinai show both sisters there during final months. You need to see this now." The revelation hit like a thunderbolt. Rebecca's twin sister, a surrogate mother who died in childbirth. The pieces were falling into place, painting a picture more complex than either of them had imagined. Emma sank into a nearby chair as Marcus shared James's findings. "So, I'm not Rebecca's daughter. I'm her niece." "It appears so," Marcus said gently. "Your biological mother was Rebecca's twin sister, who acted as a surrogate for close friends, but there were complications during childbirth." Emma's world tilted on its axis. "And Rebecca? Did she know about me?" "The evidence suggests she did. The timing of her hospital visits, the legal documents. She was preparing for something." Marcus's voice cracked. "I think she was trying to protect you, to make sure you'd be cared for if anything happened to your mother." Tears streamed down Emma's face. "But she died before she could tell you." "Yes." Marcus moved closer, hesitating before placing a hand on her shoulder. Emma, I know this is overwhelming. Overwhelming? She laughed bitterly. My entire identity just shattered, Mr. Davidson. I don't even know who I am anymore. You're exactly who you've always been, he said firmly. A strong, compassionate young woman who puts others before herself. Finding out about your past doesn't change who you are, it just adds another layer to your story. If you're enjoying this story so far, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. It costs you nothing, but for us, especially in these early days, it means the world. Let's continue with what happens next. Emma looked up at him, really looked at him for the first time since that first night. Why are you really helping me? Is it just because I look like her? Marcus shook his head slowly. At first, maybe. But now? Now it's because I see you, Emma. Not Rebecca's ghost, not a mystery to solve, just you. The moment hung between them, heavy with unspoken emotions. Then Emma's phone buzzed. Noah needed her. Reality crashed back in. As she gathered her things to leave, Marcus called after her. Emma, whatever you decide to do with this information, whatever you need, I'm here. She paused at the door, the rain creating a silver curtain behind her. I think I need time. But they both knew this was just the beginning, because some truths, once revealed, can't be buried again, and some connections, once forged, become stronger than blood itself. James's investigation had uncovered one more crucial detail, a safety deposit box in Rebecca's name, untouched since her death. Inside lay answers that would change everything, answers that would test the fragile trust building between Marcus and Emma in ways neither of them could anticipate. Thunder rolled across the Manhattan skyline as Marcus stood in his penthouse study, Rebecca's diary open before him. He'd read the final entries countless times now, searching for clues he might have missed, but it was the contents of the safety deposit box that had shaken him to his core. Inside, they'd found a series of letters exchanged between Rebecca and her twin sister Sarah, documenting a plan they'd kept hidden from everyone. A trust fund set up in secret, legal documents ensuring the baby would be protected, and a sealed letter addressed simply, "To my dearest niece." Marcus's hands trembled as he held the unopened envelope. For 19 years, Rebecca's final secret had waited here, buried in legal vaults and forgotten paperwork. Now it sat before him, but it wasn't his to read. Across town, Emma sat cross-legged on her bed, surrounded by adoption papers and old photographs. Noah's soft snoring drifted through their thin apartment walls, reminding her of all she had to lose, or gain. She picked up the single photograph she had of her birth mother, Rebecca's twin, studying the familiar features that had so haunted Marcus that first night. Her phone lit up with his text. Found something in Rebecca's safety deposit box, something she left for you. Emma's heart thundered in her chest. Another piece of the puzzle, another thread connecting her to a past she never knew existed. But was she ready for more truth? The next evening, the restaurant hummed with its usual dinner crowd, but neither Emma nor Marcus noticed. They sat in a quiet corner after closing, the sealed letter between them on the table like a live wire. You don't have to read it, Marcus said softly. Not if you're not ready. Emma traced her finger over Rebecca's handwriting, her name written in elegant script. Did you read it? No. He shook his head. It wasn't meant for me. With trembling fingers, Emma broke the seal. The paper was yellowed with age, but the words were clear. My dearest Emma, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. The doctors say I don't have much time left, and there's so much I need to tell you. First, know that your mother, my beautiful twin Sarah, loved you before you even existed. She gave her life bringing you into this world, and her last words were about you. But there's more to this story. Sarah wasn't just my sister, she was my other half. When she agreed to be a surrogate for our close friends, the Mitchells, we never imagined it would cost her life. The trust fund I've set up will ensure you're taken care of, but money isn't what matters. What matters is that you understand how deeply you were wanted, how fiercely you were loved, even before your first breath. I wanted to tell Marcus everything. About you, about Sarah's surrogacy, about the promises I made. But time slipped away too quickly, and now I can only hope that fate will bring you together somehow. Marcus is a good man with a heart bigger than he knows. But grief makes us do strange things, build walls we think will protect us. If you're reading this, it means those walls are finally coming down. You are not anyone's replacement, Emma. You are your own person, carrying the best parts of our family within you. Sarah's courage, her kindness, her spirit. I see it all in you, even though I'll never meet you. There's one last thing you should know. In the black leather journal, marked with a gold ribbon, you'll find the complete story of your birth parents, the Mitchells, and why they had to leave you in the care of another family. Some secrets are kept not to deceive, but to protect. Live boldly, love deeply, and know that you were never truly alone. You were loved by two sisters who would have moved heaven and earth for you. With all my love, your Aunt Rebecca. Tears streamed down Emma's face as she looked up at Marcus. He had moved to stand by the window, giving her privacy, but she could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands gripped the windowsill. She knew, Emma whispered. She knew everything. Marcus turned, his own eyes glistening. Rebecca always did see things the rest of us missed. She must have known somehow that we'd find each other. But why didn't she tell you? Why keep it all a secret? Marcus moved back to the table, sitting across from her. I think she knew I wasn't ready, that I needed to heal first, to learn to live again before I could be any good to anyone else. Emma wiped her tears with the back of her hand. And now? Are you ready now? The question hung between them, heavy with meaning. Marcus reached across the table, taking Emma's hand in his. Emma, meeting you, it woke something in me I thought died with Rebecca. Not because you look like her, but because you showed me that life goes on, that love doesn't end with loss, it just changes form. Thunder crashed outside and the restaurant lights flickered, but neither of them moved, caught in a moment of understanding that transcended blood ties and twisted fate. I don't need another father, Emma said softly. I had one who loved me very much. I know, Marcus replied. But maybe you could use someone who understands where you come from, who knows the weight of the legacy you carry. Before Emma could respond, Marcus's phone buzzed urgently. James's message made his blood run cold. Found the black leather journal Rebecca mentioned. There's more to the Mitchell story. The original parents, they didn't abandon Emma. They were killed. Car accident, same night as Sarah's death. Someone's been covering this up for 18 years. Marcus's hand tightened on Emma's reflexively. She noticed immediately, her eyes narrowing. What is it? What's wrong? He hesitated, knowing this revelation would change everything again. James found the journal Rebecca mentioned. Emma, your birth parents, the Mitchells, their death wasn't an accident. Someone's been hiding the truth all these years. Emma's face went pale. What are you saying? The night Sarah died giving birth to you, your birth parents were heading to the hospital. Their car crash, James found evidence it was deliberate. Someone wanted to make sure you ended up in the adoption system. But why? Emma's voice cracked. Who would? She stopped suddenly, a memory clicking into place. The adoption agency that closed down, the missing records, it wasn't just poor record-keeping, was it? Marcus shook his head grimly. No, someone went to great lengths to hide your true identity, and I think Rebecca knew who. Emma stood abruptly, pacing the empty restaurant. All these years I thought I was just unwanted. But you're telling me my entire life has been some kind of elaborate cover-up? Rebecca was trying to protect you, Marcus said softly. She must have discovered something dangerous, something that forced her to keep quiet. Until now, Emma whispered. She left us a trail to follow. Marcus watched her carefully. We don't have to pursue this. You have a good life now, Emma. A future ahead of you. We could just... No. Emma turned to him, her eyes blazing with a determination that was all her own. I need to know the truth, all of it, even if it's painful, even if it's dangerous." Marcus stood, moving to join her by the window. The storm outside had intensified, lightning illuminating the city in harsh flashes. "Then we'll find the truth together," he said, "whatever it takes." But, as they stood there, neither could have predicted the final twist that awaited them in Rebecca's journal, a revelation that would not only solve the mystery of Emma's past, but would also test the bounds of loyalty, trust, and the true meaning of family. The final pages of Rebecca's journal held the truth they sought, a revelation that brought both tears and healing. Tucked between the pages was a photo, faded with time. Rebecca and Sarah as young girls, their arms wrapped around each other, identical smiles beaming at the camera. On the back, in Rebecca's handwriting, was a message that changed everything. "My dearest Marcus, when you find this, you'll understand why I kept Emma's story hidden. The Mitchells weren't just our friends. They were investigating corruption at the highest levels of Mount Sinai Hospital. Someone wanted them silenced, and Sarah discovered who. I couldn't risk Emma's safety by revealing the truth too soon. But I knew someday, when the time was right, fate would bring you together. Not to relive the past, but to heal the future. Love doesn't die with us, my darling. It transforms." 1 year later, the Manhattan skyline glowed with evening light as the restaurant buzzed with a different kind of energy. Emma moved confidently between tables, now wearing medical scrubs beneath her apron, her first year of medical school well underway. The weight of tuition no longer haunted her. The truth about her parents' investigation had led to justice, substantial settlements, and the exposure of a decades-old medical fraud scheme. Marcus sat at his usual corner table, but he wasn't alone anymore. Business documents were scattered across the surface as he helped Noah with his engineering college applications. The young man's dreams were no longer just dreams. "She would have loved this," Emma said softly, pausing at their table during her break. "Both of them, Rebecca and Sarah, seeing us all together." Marcus looked up, his eyes warm with understanding. "They did love it. They orchestrated it in their own way." Emma touched the locket around her neck, a gift from Marcus on her 20th birthday. Inside were 3 photos, one of her adoptive parents, one of the Mitchells, and one of Rebecca and Sarah. 3 sets of love, 3 legacies intertwined. "You know," Noah said, looking between them, "most people wouldn't believe our story if we told them." "Most people," Marcus replied, "don't understand that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about choices. The choice to seek truth, to trust, to heal." Emma smiled, watching the storm clouds break outside, sunlight streaming through the same windows where their story had begun. "Sometimes," she added, "it's about letting go of who we thought we needed to be and embracing who we truly are." The restaurant filled with the soft sounds of evening dining, clinking glasses, gentle laughter, the piano's quiet melody. But now these sounds weren't a backdrop to loneliness. They were the soundtrack to a different kind of love story, one of healing, of found family, and of the countless ways the heart can expand to hold both past and present. Because in the end, this wasn't just about solving a mystery or healing old wounds. It was about the extraordinary way life brings people together, weaving past and present into something new and beautiful, a tapestry of love that transcends time, loss, and even death itself.